It seems the days are numbered for the current Eskom board. Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan, to remind you, is planning to have the board reconstituted and restructured. We are going through some of the worst periods of power cuts in our country's history. Stage 3 and Stage 4 blackouts expected for the rest of this week. We are currently still in Stage 3 at the moment. Energy expert Tshepo Kgadima joining us this morning. Tshepo, and some people are saying it's merely reshuffling the chairs on the decks of the Titanic. It's not going to make a difference. What do you make of this?
Well, to the extent that the minister's pronouncement yesterday that there's been a review and therefore the board will be reconfigured and reconstituted, there hasn't been much more detail. So that minimum details has brought about maximum consternation among the nation, among the people, on the basis that, well, when will this come to an end in terms of rolling blackouts? And also, what is the criteria in terms of the key attributes that such a board, which is to be appointed, they must possess in order to avoid the calamities that we are currently going through in terms of rolling blackouts?
So do you think it's going to really make a difference if we just end up with the same kind of board that we have now? What does this new board, Tshepo, need to consist of? Because I'm hearing people and other experts saying a lot more engineers, financial experts, and analysts, etc. What would you like to see the board made up of?
Well, the board has to be actually constituted by persons who have got proven skill, experience, as well expertise in running large corporations, not necessarily utilities, but very large corporations and specifically multinational corporations. But we have to bear this in mind. The role of the board of any company is to actually lead the company and not manage the company, and also to set in place a strategy as well as to appoint a competent, knowledgeable, experienced CEO who can then be able to manage the company on a day-to-day to ensure that the strategic direction that would have been designed by the board is followed. But the board itself has to actually have people who understand that Eskom is an organ of statute, and that the strategy of Eskom, the strategic direction, is by and large stipulated in statute, specifically the Eskom Conversion Act of 2001. And that will mean that most of the bizarre and upset decisions we've seen the outgoing board and the boards before then taking, and specifically around unbundling, any new board that comes in now will have to abandon course in terms of the unbundling, because the unbundling of Eskom was actually requested by politicians. The other question is that, will the politicians, once this new board is constituted and appointed, will they desist from unlawful interference that has characterized all state-owned companies and let the board do the business of the board to ensure that they can hold the management accountable? And will the ministers have, or the politicians, have the moral fortitude to not unlawfully interfere, but ensure that there are checks and balances where, if the board is evidently failing, as this has been the case, that immediate action can be taken decisively to remove such board members if they are failing.
The problem is as well, though, Tshepo, I'm sure you're aware of this argument, is that you've got ministers who are appointing Eskom board members, but the ministers don't actually know anything about electricity or energy either. So you've essentially got the blind leading the blind. What do you make of that statement?
Well, that is unfortunately where we are, because Minister Pravin Gordhan speaks of the review process that has been done, but even though it is peremptory, it is obligatory for him to have disclosed, in terms of the Constitution of the Republic, to have disclosed what are actually the key attributes and what are the key competencies that the board that he intends to appoint must possess. He has not been forthcoming on that. And the reason he has been forthcoming is, I suspect, is because he himself doesn't really know the type of a board which will lead Eskom to being once again a successful and a thriving utility that it once was. So I am afraid that we are going to see once again a repeat of what actually has been a disastrous tenure of the board chaired by Professor Malagapuru Makgoba. But anyway, let's see also that such a board, will it be able then to do what is necessary to appoint a new chief executive officer, to have a flat structure of Eskom and not add more layers of bureaucratic management style, and ensure that the position of chief operations officer is made redundant, because there is no need for a chief operations officer when you've got the chief executive officer with each of the three main divisions of Eskom, being generation, transmission, as well as distribution, each having a CEO. But also, such divisions must not have boards of directors, as has been suggested by both the politicians as well as the outgoing board.
Well, I appreciate your time. We all wait to see what this restructuring is going to actually look like, how it's going to land once the cards are revealed. Tshepo, thank you very much indeed for your time. Always good to hear from energy expert Tshepo Kgadima.